To understand any problem, we need a historical perspective. Only then it makes sense as to what caused, what happened, and what can be done. India's colonial experience provides that perspective. In this video, we're going to look at colonial impact on broad sectors of the economy and social classes. Since the 18th century, the world economy has been influenced by two major forces. One is the Industrial Revolution, and the second one is colonialism. And it is because of these two forces, the world was divided into developed and developing economies. Industrial revolution took place in Western Europe, especially Britain, and the impact due to this revolution is unmatched. It led to increase in productivity of labor and prosperity, mainly because machines changed people's way of life as well as their methods of manufacture. However, the benefits of this revolution did not reach the regions of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. It is simply because of colonialism. These regions became impoverished after they became colonies. So industrial revolution and colonialism worked parallel because it prospered the countries of Europe and looted the countries which were their colonies. Now India's colonial experience under British was for 2.5 centuries, that is from 1700 to 1947. This timeline can be further divided into two important halves, just to understand the problem in a better sense. The first half was from 1700 to 1857, wherein India was ruled by a trading company called East India Company, and the other half, that is from 1858 to 1947, witnessed a direct rule by the British Crown. Now these two periods represented different kinds of British interest in India, and that got further translated in their economic policies for India. The trading activities of East India Company were very harsh. They would underpay the peasants, weavers, and local merchants while trading goods. Often their methods of doing business involved violence, coercion, and other sorts of threats. Then they also introduced the land revenue system in India, wherein the company would collect revenue on land. Under this system, zamindari, ryotwari, and mehelwari systems of land settlements were created, which further increased the problems of Indian agriculture and peasantry. Because now the system created a new class of intermediaries, that is the middlemen, who collected revenue on behalf of the company. Try to understand this. Now the peasants had to pay more in terms of revenue demand of the company, which also included the marginal commission of middlemen. This created immense pressure on the peasants. They were forced to shift their cultivation from food crops to commercial crops. As a result, the peasants became market dependent for food grains, and that led to large-scale famines. Due to combined weight of all these problems, peasants were forced to sell their lands to merchants and moneylenders, or become tenants on the estate lands. Simultaneously, the rural craft and urban industry faced similar problem, and due to that, workers joined the ranks of landless and poor. In the middle of this crisis, the intermediaries, that is the middlemen, they emerged as the new dominant social class. Neither the company nor the middlemen showed any interest in the long-term development of agriculture through investments. Now this problem only became worse after the shift of power from the company to the British Crown. It became pretty evident that the British industry required India to be their major source of raw materials and an assured market for British manufacturers. Now this is where it gets very interesting. The British now felt the compulsion to invest in India, and that too in selected sectors of irrigation, transport network, and port development. As the civil and revenue administration grew, they also felt the requirement of manpower. Therefore, to meet that requirement, English education was introduced. Now for a moment you may realize, look, there is an investment by the British for the betterment of India. Then you must also realize at the cost of what? There were no relief to the peasants, revenue demands were increasing, and the laborers employed in tea, coffee, and rubber plantations in India lived in slave-like conditions. Indian industry also suffered a major decline under the Crown rule. Competition from British manufacturers meant a decline in demand for domestic handlooms, metals, tools, paper products, and so on. This competition ruined millions of artisans and craft industries. British capital was mainly directed to banking, commerce, shipping, and insurance, so there was no development of heavy industries. They never encouraged any native entrepreneur class to create business. This method of declining traditional industries and not letting the modern and heavy industries grow is known as deindustrialization. And if you have seen the video of Mr. Shashi Tharoor's speech at Oxford Union, there he nicely said Britain's industrial revolution was actually premised upon the deindustrialization of India. British introduced new ways of draining the Indian economy. India's foreign trade surplus were transferred to British accounts. India was also made to pay for British wars in Afghanistan and China. So these were some of the ways of draining the Indian economy. But overall, the economic impact of colonial rule in India was devastating. They took no responsibility for any kind of welfare of Indians. And because of colonialism, Indian economy faced stagnation and decline, which later on became a major challenge for development of the independent India. If you want to see more of such educational content, make sure you're subscribed. By doing so, you'll get an alert when my next video comes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.